And we're live. Attenborough was my age when I was born.
Wow. That's interesting. I look at those kind of things too, where like you'll get on a weird little age clicking thing where you'll look people up, and then like maybe it sounds like you're like this too, Woody, where I'll look up and be like, man, when I was starting life, this guy was 72 and he's still around, and he's been around since then as long as I don't know. It's a weird thought that like how much shit was going on before you were here. And it's even realer when you can see someone who that's really trite, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Well, so what were you born in the 90s?
Yeah, 91.
Right. So I'm like, Taylor thinks of the 70s in the same way that I think of as the 50s. You know, like before my time, but not some strange foreign land.
And the same way that 9-year-old, that doesn't have the same kick. But like, I mean, you're right. It is kind of alarming to kind of look at like, oh, you've been alive since like the Great Depression. You were born, and then you grew up through the Second World War, and then you had the 60s. You had Cold War, and then you had and then you had I'm still there. And then you had like the internet and cell phones and all this shit. And I'm just like, I can't believe my porn takes this long to download. Like, I can't believe I'm buffering in 4K.
Like, it's crazy. Like, he was in his 60s, his mid 60s, when the internet became like a burgeoning thing. Yeah. Or like, I guess when it was more popular, he was like 70 in the mid 90s when more people were kind of picking it up. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy that someone that late in life experiences something and then gets to see the evolution that we've seen until now. Like, to see everything and then see that rapid change.
What's just must be mind-blowing. Like, I guess most impressive. Okay, here's this. What exists in your lifetime that you didn't think you'd see that was just sci-fi? Anything yet?
Oh man, let me think.
I'll go while you're thinking.
VR is probably the like.
Ooh, VR is a neat one.
We're all significantly younger than you, so there's a difference here. But like VR was something that growing up and like reading like Ender's Game and like watching, like cyberpunk futuristic shit. I'm like, oh, there's gonna be a way that we can like download our conscious into the VR, and now, albeit in a very janky and not as full dive way, still very impressive. Like, we have it. So that to me was the big thing currently that I'm like, wow, I can't believe we have VR or AR or anything like that.
You know what seemed like total sci-fi impossibility that exists? The translators. The fact that I can like talk to my phone and have it talk to you in Spanish. My friend went to South Korea. He's in the army. And he would just point his phone at the menus and know what the different menu items were. And, so it would project on his phone in English. And this is the menus like behind the cashier. And like that kind of like this universal translators, that's Star Trek shit. And it's on an iPhone and probably Android.
No, it is.
That is cool.
Yeah, VR was what my mind went to immediately also. And I remember the first time I played Pokemon Go, not even that remarkable, just being like, this is sick. This is like I'm at a Chipotle catching a riot or a fucking pincer or whatever it is. Like, I don't know. That was really, really cool.
The Epcot Center has that big
that's AR,
sphere.
But that's like the most bottom of the barrel AR, which is why it's very exciting to think about like the full dive, whether it's like plug into your nervous system or like full haptic suit. Like, that is not even 20 years in the future. That's a very real. We're gonna get our first prototypes at some point in the next 5-10 years. So it's just like
the Republicans on my Facebook feed will absolutely be against that plugging in microchipping.
They can't stop me jerking off to anime, and they won't be able to. All right, like I will be in that haptic suit getting my dick sucked by some 3D person that doesn't exist. It's gonna be incredible.
Look, you're winning me over, Tucker. I'm on the same team.
I mean, I would think that the most incredible thing to possibly live through was I remember one of the major freeing developments was not paying for a text messaging plan.
Yeah.
Like when we had to pay for 250 text messages a month and you'd go over. And my mom would be like, I can't, who the fuck are you talking to this much? Like who? Now it's like, if you had a like a limit on how much you could text that would be absurd versus like my dad watched the moon, listened to the moon landing on radio or whatever. And now he's like, you see SpaceX? You see that shit? We got live stream full HD footage all the way to the space station. That's crazy. You know,
and
now it's like coded.
The text message thing, the iPhone was blue and if you texted an Android guy, it was green. People say,
it's still that way.
Yeah, it is still that way. It started that way not because of this like prestige iPhone thing, which is maybe how it's viewed as today, but because you really wanted to know if this was a free text message that went iPhone to iPhone over like Wi-Fi, or if it was a text message that counted against your monthly limit.
It was iMessage versus SMS, and same with like. No, you're 100% right. It's just a weird, like, I feel like my, oh my God, I can't believe that I get unlimited text messages is insurmountably way shittier than my dad going like, I remember growing up and not having the internet, and now I can do whatever the fuck I want on the internet. Like that gap between growing up and having nothing to like having Netflix at your disposal seems.
I've talked about my Facebook fools too much, but when the internet first became a thing, people in school, like I was, wanted to use it as a source. And these boomers would be like, dude, you can't use the internet as a source. It has to come from books. If it's on the internet, it's not verified, it's not true, etc. Now, anyone who's on the internet all the time has a pretty easy task of figuring out like what's a reliable source and what's a bullshit, verified, whatever. But it's the boomers who fall for this insanity all the time, like QAnon shit.
Yeah.
And like, dude, your age group was nailing me to the cross for using the internet as a source as a student, and now you're falling into bullshit hook, line, and sinker.
A very Gen Z take of you, Woody, because like this was still like I could not use Wikipedia as a source in high school, which wasn't that long ago, 10 years ago. I could use peer-reviewed sources from peer-reviewed. Like the general like science, whatever conglomerate shit. And that was, I remember like coming into the internet and being able to be like, oh, I can use this as a source, but I have to give the references that they use as like my bibliography, all that shit. But it is not lost on myself, nor is it lost on probably everyone under the age of 40, that the same people that were drilling that idea of like you have to check your sources are now
terrible
like,
at checking
posting
their
articles
sources
from like commondreams.net.org where it's like what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like
and it's always like the title of those is always like the truth will set you free .biz.
Yeah. And you're like .biz, huh? Ain't nobody can buy their own website. I don't understand.
Yeah. Like I know you're making some good arguments, but this is a .fun domain, so I'm not sure about it. Yeah, that is interesting because I remember that you can't use this. This is just a website. It's like but it's like linking to passages from books, and it was like I remember our librarian went hog wild with blocking sites in high school to the point like sites you couldn't go to the point that it was unusable for a while, where it'd be like you couldn't go to certain Wikipedia articles. You couldn't, like, it was absurd.
I may have a Gen Z take because I just finished school like 10 years ago, like you did, but you'd always just go one level deeper, right? Like you go to Wikipedia to find where they found their sources, and it's not that.